What up, everybody? Thank you for ever voting third party. I appreciate that very much. Good morning, Live Me. Thank you for your patience. Good morning, YouTube. We're live. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. And we got a guest today, and that guest is Todd Schleicher. He is an independent running for governor of Michigan. So get your questions ready for him. Todd, I'll tell you a little bit about what you can expect here. So this is the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What that means, I log into this stream, and the viewers tweet me articles, tweet me topics, and that's how we build the show. I don't know any of the topics ahead of time. We all unpack it together. It's basically like you're reading your news with a group of people. It's a fun time. So when we have a guest, the way it works is that people tweet me questions. They put questions in the chat. And we're also on two different platforms here. We're streaming on a streaming application called Live Me. We're also streaming on YouTube. The folks on Live Me, they can hear you, but they can't see you. The folks on YouTube, they can see you and hear you, but the folks on Live Me get the first choice at questions. So they're going to be asking questions. The folks on YouTube get to ask you questions too. So you're going to be taking a lot of questions from a lot of different people. When you see me kind of looking around and stuff like that, it's not because I'm not paying attention to you. It's because I'm trying to filter the questions. They're coming at me from two different platforms. So don't think I'm like not listening or anything like that. I totally am. I'm just trying to multitask to the best of my ability. Does that all sound like a fun time to you?
Let's get it going.
I like that. All right. So guys, get your questions ready for Todd. And we're going to kick right in here. So first of all, I'll start. Todd, why don't you give everybody a 411 on who you are, why you're running for governor, and what some of your main platform positions are?
Okay. Well, first off, I've been in the transportation industry for 35 plus years. So I have a good clue on what's going on in our roads here in Michigan. I'm a father to 7. I have 6 grandchildren. And what I've had friends and family members trying to get me into politics for almost 25 years. And I kept telling them, no, I don't want to be part of those idiots. So, but when Flint, Michigan happened here with the water crisis, Flint is my hometown. I grew up in Flint. And my brother called me one day after it happened, and he asked me if I was angry enough yet. And that was the final straw for me. So I done my research and found the office that I need to run for that would do the most good for the people of Michigan.
Well, then what made you pick governor? And also on that, what made you decide to run as an independent?
Well, I've always been an independent. I have voted Democratic and I have voted Republican. To me, that's the way it should be. I mean, currently look at what our two parties are doing. I mean, they really can't get anything done for the people, and I mean this as national as well as statewide, because they can't stop bickering and finger pointing. They won't help us if they can't claim a victory over the other party. So, but again, I've always been an independent. I've never been a registered Democrat or a registered Republican. And,
Well, when you say they can't get stuff done, I mean, do you see that as a reflection of they don't get stuff done because they're bickering with each other, or they don't get stuff done because public opinion really means nothing to them? The way I see it, for instance, we don't have two parties. We have one party. It's the money party, because we have two political parties that have the same owners. And especially now, although it's always been this way, but public opinion be damned. I mean, they wanted to try to push through a healthcare plan that was even worse than the ACA, which the ACA was a baby step in a better direction, but still nowhere near what we need. And it had about a 13% approval rating. They tried to push it through anyway. Same with the tax bill. They tried to push it through anyway. They gutted net neutrality, even though 83% of the public wanted net neutrality. And I'm pretty sure the other 17% either doesn't know what net neutrality is or is misinformed on it. So I think that's more of a reflection on why we can't get stuff done. So do you see the two-party system as being completely broken? And if so, how do we fix that?
Well, again, it is completely broken. There's no issue about it. They've lost touch with the people. And, you know, I want to change that, even if it's only a baby step, as you call it here in Michigan. But anytime an independent wins gubernatorials in any state, the other states pay attention. And what I have planned for Michigan with real accountability, equality, and integrity, I have a funny feeling the other 49 states are really going to stand up and take notice of what I'm doing here. And to give you an idea on that, I mean, I'll tell you part of what my platform is all about. I mean, we actually plan on restructuring the entire tax system here in Michigan. I mean, that will effectively eliminate our property tax on your primary residence. It'll lower health insurance by 50% in the state. And a big thing here in Michigan is auto insurance. I mean, right now we currently are 136% higher than the national average. And with my platform being in place, that will lower the auto insurance between 47 and 70%. Those are the big points that I'm having here in Michigan that I'm gaining traction on, which is something that'll benefit 80% of the people here in Michigan. So, I mean, and to answer your question with the ACA, the only thing that I found that really benefited the people, seeing how it was made mandatory, was the fact that they got rid of the pre-existing conditions. That was the only issue that I seen that it helped, because a lot of people don't realize the ACA or Obamacare or whatever you want to call it was when they go onto these websites in order to get the insurance, all they see is the price that they would pay, which was generally between 25 and 40% of what the cost of that policy actually was, which is how our system currently works when you have insurance through your employer. So what I brought to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, which is currently our largest health insurance programs here in Michigan, and I think they're pretty high in all the states. But the fact is, I went to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan and I said, look, when I become governor, you're going to have to lower your premiums and your deductibles by 50%. And they laughed at me. And I told them, I said, look, I'm not asking you to go into the black or red, whichever you want to look at it, into the negatives. I'm asking you to lower your premiums to make them more affordable for the people of Michigan. And he says, we couldn't do that. I said, you made $80 billion profit last year. I said, you can't survive on $40 billion profit. And I told him right then and there, I said, fine, this is what my plan is for Michigan. I will force you to compete with the state in order to lower your health insurance. And he says,
so what is your plan for healthcare then? Are you a single payer guy then?
Yes. Yes. I will open up the state Medicaid to the people of Michigan at that 50% range. In other words, a family of four for health insurance in Michigan will be, instead of $1,200 and $1,400 that they're currently paying, it'll be between $600 and $700 a month with a deductible of $1,500. Now, that forces the health insurance industry in Michigan to compete, because I will make sure that health insurance and mental health insurance is combined into this program. That is at the $40 billion mark currently that Blue Cross Blue Shield is making. So
do you favor Bernie Sanders' plan then? Do you favor Medicare for all?
Well, Medicare for all is federal. Okay. I believe in small government, and I do believe in the state sovereignties. I like some of Bernie's plans, and he has some great ideas. I'm not against Bernie Sanders by any means. But like with the 2016 presidential race, is what we're currently seeing here in Michigan, is everybody's pointing out what the problems are. They are not looking at the solutions and giving the solutions to it. And that's what I'm doing when I'm out here traveling around Michigan. I'm bringing solutions to these problems. And right now, the Democrats and the Republicans, I think they see me nipping at their heels.
Well, you know, when you say like you believe in small government, a lot of times that's kind of code for I want to deregulate everything and I want to kind of play along with the United Corporations of America. But on your website, it seems like you are not that guy. So how do you kind of like set your messaging apart?
Well, like I said, I come out here with the solutions to it, and I'm also listening to the people on what they need and want. And I'm straightforward. I'll be the first to tell you that there's no feasible way that we can do something. Like I've had, well, auto insurance is a given. That's going to be a simple fix here in Michigan, but health insurance is going to be a big issue here. Uh, and I'm straightforward. I've talked to many of people on my campaign, and I came across this woman in Port Huron, and she overheard me talking to people, and healthcare was one of these issues. And my campaign manager John was with me, and she come up to me and she says, I want to know exactly how you're going to cut health insurance by 50% here in Michigan. She says, because I handle the health insurance for a major corporation here in Michigan. And it took me 20 minutes, and she turned around and said, you know what, I'm going to vote for you because I like that plan. Now, she knows the ins and outs of the health insurance industry. And after those 20 minutes of me talking to her, she understood where I was coming from. It's just a matter of forcing industries to follow. We can't, right now, currently, the health insurance industry is running rampant because nobody is stepping in to put the brakes on them or force them to follow us criteria that helps the people of Michigan. I mean,
but their model's set up that way, though. I mean, they're also set up. I mean, they're for-profit entities. They're an unnecessary middleman. So, I mean, I don't see. I mean, I understand what you're saying, like open it up at the state level to make them compete. But eventually, they're going to go the way of the buffalo. I mean, which should happen. I mean, I'm all for that happening. I'm for single payer 110%. I don't think there is any room for the for-profit insurance industry at the table.
Well, this is a precursor to that. This is what I'm doing because I don't know what the federal government's going to do. And a lot of people will ask me all these questions about what our current president, Trump, is doing. And I say, look, I'm not worried about what the federal government's doing right now. What I care about is what is going on here in Michigan. But at the same time, I'm setting Michigan up to go the way that they choose to go with the federal government. Now, all I can assume is what they're going to do. I can't predict what they're going to do. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve. So that's where my health insurance program is coming in. Like I said, it's setting it up, it is actually making healthcare affordable here in the state of Michigan. Now, this isn't just to the individual. I mean, this is also for the corporations that are currently paying a portion of employees' health care. So this will fit right in with them as well. This isn't just being offered to the people of Michigan. This is being offered to their corporations that help pay their health insurance. Now, I've had doctors tell me that, well, what makes you think we're going to go for your policies? And I've explicitly said to them, look, the hospitals that you work for, the clinics that you work for, at some point, they accept taxpayer dollars. So if they accept taxpayer dollars, then they have to take the insurance if it's offered to them. So this is where, I mean, it's kind of being forceful, but at the same time, it's leaning it towards the people of Michigan.
So do you think eventually we will have a federal single payer system then?
I think we will eventually, but I don't foresee it within the next 8 to 12 years.
We'll see. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, where it's got to start at the state level, though. Like that's kind of the only way. And I'm definitely with you there. My thing is that, I don't understand how you had a conversation with that woman who's in the health insurance industry, and she was like, "I'm all about your plan," because it sounds like you're saying, "In my plan, you ain't going to exist anymore," which is what I want to see happen. Right. But I'm not sure how she went along with that. You must be a very charming fellow.
Well, I'm one of these people that don't like to be photographed, so I don't know how you could say I'm charming. I never used to speak in front of people. I would actually be that kid that would take the lower grade in class just so I wouldn't have to get up and speak. So I guess maybe after the last 35 years, I've changed that attitude, and I really don't care about being interviewed or anything. It doesn't bother me is what I should say. I'm out here on a mission for the people of Michigan.
All right, so we got a lot of questions, and just so you know, these are kind of coming in as they're going. So you're going to have to jump from topic to topic, and we're all going to be on our toes. That's how we do things here. Do you favor unions for teachers? Forever Voting Third Party wants to know.
Well, the unions are bucking me out here. They're blocking me from coming in and speaking to the teachers. But when I speak to the teachers one-on-one, they like what I stand for, because one of our candidates that are running for governor here in Michigan, Bill Schuette, he currently believes that teachers are making too much money here in Michigan. And I don't think they're making enough. I mean, my standards for our schools here in Michigan is an increase of 25% totally of the funding for Michigan schools, which is currently $15.2 billion. And I'm up right at a $20 billion budget for our schools. I believe our teachers should make no less than a minimum of $60,000 a year. And currently Michigan is right around, I believe it's $43,000. So that's quite an increase for them. And at the same time, I'm all for unions. The problem I find with unions are that they don't really represent their members. Here in Michigan, and this is directly a quote from a UAW superior, which is the United Auto Workers Union. Mike Stone, I don't even care, I'll mention his name. He stated to me that 80% of Michigan's unions are all Democratic, but 90% of their members are Republicans. So I don't understand that. They don't want to endorse an independent. Matter of fact, I think they're leaning towards endorsing our Democratic candidate, Gretchen Whitmer, which she's the Democratic Party's golden child here in Michigan, and she's not even polling higher than one of her other opponents. But yes, I am for the teachers' unions, but they need to start talking to the third parties. You know, the minor parties and the independents. I currently have one of our minor parties here in Michigan that reached out to me and wants me to be one of their candidates. And they want me to accept their nomination. Now, I have been in talks with them, and I more than likely will go with the U.S. Taxpayer Party. I mean, after all, and I've looked at this, I mean, this is just a thought that I have come up with, and I look at it this way. We can all call ourselves Democrats or Republicans, but one thing we all are is U.S. taxpayers.
Speak for yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
You're a taxpayer.
I pay my taxes. I pay my taxes. So you're pro-union. You're pro-union. And I understand, I mean, you know, using the teachers, and I'm 110% for teachers unions as well. However, when they will endorse a certain candidate and nobody is consulted, I see a problem with that. I mean, in the presidential, for instance, they endorsed Hillary over Bernie. Nobody was consulted. Like, they just made that decision at the top. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, though, but a couple unions have gotten together at the large level, and they said, you know what, we're not just going to give an endorsement out willy-nilly to someone just because they have a D next to their name. We have to stop doing that. We can't just allow anyone that just happens to be registered a Democrat to count on our endorsement, because there's a lot of Democrats out there that are anti-union. It's a thing now. You can't, I mean, it used to be Republicans used to be pro-union. Now it's not even guaranteed Democrats are pro-union. And of course, Republicans are as anti-union as you can get. They're trying to make right to work federal, which would kill unions completely. So you don't really have, I mean, I would argue there is no pro-union party other than the Greens. So there is no pro-union party with power. So why is it they're not willing to listen to you if you are pro-union?
The biggest thing that I'm hearing, and I mean, we've tried to set up many, many meetings with different unions, different groups. They don't want to listen to us because I'm an independent. That tag, independent, evidently they don't think that we can win an election. But yet we do have independents in our state rep, in our state house, and our state senate. So I don't understand. Maybe it's because it's the highest office in the state and we've never had an independent governor, but I plan on changing that in 2018. But that's the biggest issue I find, Ron.
Okay, so let's go over to Flint then, because some people are asking about Flint. How do we fix that? I mean, that's basically what people want to know. Any plans for depoisoning the water, which you know, you're one guy, but you're running for governor. So how do we fix Flint?
There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Mayor Weaver, Karen Weaver of Flint, I have bumped heads with her numerous times when she actually accepted a meeting with me a year ago. But the minute just before, it was what, 2 days, I think it was, before the meeting, she found out I was an independent candidate and canceled it and said she was too busy. Well, you know, the thing with Flint, if I would have been mayor at the time, and I don't mean no joke or whatsoever about this, the facts are the facts. If I would have been mayor at the time, it would have been, I would have been putting ads out in the local papers and on the local TV channels. If you want to make 15 bucks an hour, grab your shovels, let's get these lines out. The only reason I say that is because at the time that Flint was brought to the national attention, we had almost 60 plumbing companies volunteering to come in and replace these lines. We had a company from your state in California out there that wanted to donate $60 million worth of PVC pipe. Our current governor, Rick Schneider, turned that company down because he didn't like the terms that the company offered. Now, the only offer that we found out about was that the company wanted them to purchase the other $100 million worth of PVC pipe from them. That would have saved the state of Michigan $60 million that our governor turned down. And his excuse was he would rather spend the money in our state. Now, that's all well and good, but that didn't save us any money like it would have with the donations from the company out there in California. Now, Mayor Weaver, the reason I'm bumping heads with her, 1 year at, now it's currently 2 years after all this, but 1 year after the fact that she knew she was going to get $170 million from the federal government for helping them out with the water lines in Flint, and over $100 million from the state of Michigan, she got quiet. And I didn't like that. And then I find out she replaced only 1,100 lines in that first year when it shouldn't have been no issue whatsoever. I don't care if she knew she was getting money from the federal government or the state. I don't care if it would have bankrupted Flint. Those lines have to be replaced. You know, we can't continue poisoning the kids and the people of Flint at the expense of their economy, so to speak. Their economy is down. I know it sounds drastic, but I mean, poisoning an entire city is drastic. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a pretty.
I hold Governor Schneider. I hold Attorney General Bill Schuette. I hold Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley accountable for that. And the thing is, I can't blame the current governor 100% of it, because we have the Democrats in our Senate and our state house. Any one of them could have stepped up and helped the people of Flint, but they didn't until a year later. And that, I'm sorry, I'm passionate about Flint. It is my hometown. I grew up there. So I plan on, like I said, my office and my administration is going to be on accountability, equality, and integrity. And I still think there's a way of holding Schneider, Bill Schuette, and Brian Calley, the top three criminals of Flint, accountable for this, even if it's at a civil level, because they did neglect their office. They did have misconduct in their office for allowing this to happen.
So to just sum it up for simplicity's sake, you're saying we need the state to invest in just completely redoing these pipes so that we can get better water sources. And you mentioned $15 an hour. Are you in support of the fight for 15?
Well, my current rate that I see here in Michigan is between 12 and 15. So I am working that way too. We have to make sure that we don't break our economy from it. I mean, I would love to see $15 an hour, but there's some industry in Michigan that I can't see getting that $15 an hour without hurting their companies and laying off employees. But yes, I am in favor of the $15 an hour.
So do you support the fight for 15 or no?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
So you want federal $15 an hour?
Well, that would double it what it's at right now almost. I mean, what is it, $7.40 for the federal minimum wage?
Right. So do you favor, like, are you in favor of the fight for 15 or no? It's a policy question.
Yes.
You are in favor for it. So you would vote for it?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So let's see here. We got a lot of questions. And let me just hop around. Okay, so what are your thoughts on? I'm going to rephrase this question, Frederick, because I feel like it's a little leading, and I want to just let him take it where he wants to take it. What are your thoughts on Russiagate?
All right.
I said we have to jump around everywhere, man. This is how the show works.
Fine. I try to stay away from the federal issues as much as possible because I'm aiming on the state. But in my honest opinion on this, look, no matter what country we live in, our leaders are meddling in other people's elections. Obama done it. Now we're having Russia even more in ours. I don't actually know where to go with that, to be honest. I mean, because we had Obama meddling in Justin Trudeau, I think it is, up in Canada's election. We had him meddling in Brexit with Great Britain because he actually said he didn't know how the United States would handle them exiting the European Union. So, you know, it's something that goes on no matter what country we live in. You know, the leaders are meddling in other countries' elections. Now, as far as where you want to go with this, am I against it? Yes, I am against the meddling in any other country's elections. It shouldn't be, they shouldn't be doing it, plain and simple. I'll leave it at that.
Spoken like a true Putin puppet, sir. I have a feeling. You get a spit take.
I'm not a Putin puppet, trust me.
I know.
So I could care less with that. As far as I'm concerned, Putin could step out in the front of a bus tomorrow and it wouldn't hurt my feelings any. But I could say that about more than half our politicians as well.
So to sum it up, it's kind of just a hyperbolized issue, in your opinion.
Yes.
Mine too. All right.
I think the media is leading us where they want us to go with the issue. I mean, and again, you know, we have our First Amendment rights. I am a strong constitutionalist. The whole thing is, I don't even care. You know, what I care about is what goes on in my state.
I appreciate that answer, actually. Okay, so Danny wants to know, this is kind of getting back to some of the stuff you were saying. Which, Danny, by the way, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. What industry can afford $15 an hour? Will people stop buying products? How does an industry cease to exist if demand is there for what they supply?
Well, it's not a matter of the industry being having. I had this conversation on an interview last night as well. It's not a matter of the industry ceasing to exist. We always have supply and demand. Okay, the hardest industry that would be at $15 an hour is our restaurant industry. Okay, here in Michigan, I believe our waiters and waitresses are being paid roughly, I want to say right around $3.50 an hour because it varies. They're making $3.50 an hour plus their tips. Okay, some of these restaurants make these guys and girls combine all their tips together and then they split it at the end of the day, and other ones don't do that. So where that would hurt, if we force them up to $15 an hour, the restaurant owners are going to have to raise the price of their food dishes. Now, if that pushes,
don't say that. I don't buy that, and I'm not like trying to single you out. We're just having a discussion, but I mean, they always say that, like that's always like the kind of straw man they throw out there. But if their prices are too high, they're not going to compete. They're going to go under anyway. So they're going to find other ways to cut corners. Now, Jim Keedy, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a progressive out of New Jersey. Where he's at is he favors the fight for 15. He wants to enforce it on the big guys right away. If you're a big corporation, you got to go to fight for 15 right away. And then he has some exceptional incremental steps for small businesses. Would you favor something like that?
That was what I was pointing at to you. Remember here a little bit ago where I mentioned between $12 and $15. That's exactly where I was going with that. Because if we start the restaurants out at the $12 mark and then progressively move them up to the 15, it gives the society or the community an opportunity to adjust as it goes up. Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's
and you know,
exactly
and
what
I'm not totally in agreement there, and you know, and I like Jim a lot, and you know, so far I like you too. But my thing is, I mean, I think it'll just adjust itself in other ways, and also I feel like in the case of small businesses, there's so many ways that you can not necessarily negate around that, but other ways that you can conduct your business if you want to be in that small business. There are worker co-ops, for instance. There are contractor agreements. There's so many ways where if I want to start a pizza shop and I'm like, you know, on a shoestring, whatever, and it's a passion and it's kind of a labor of love for me and whoever else is involved, there are other ways that we can, you know, get the product done while we're starting out, other than paying $15 an hour to each other. And then in the future, when we can expand, you know, that would just be a factored in cost. So that's why I'm just straight up, you know, no gimmicks, no exceptions. I'm for the fight for 15. You know, I understand how some people might have some exemptions in there, but I'm just 100% for it. I don't buy, oh, they're going to raise the prices. Like, no, you know, like the whole thing, your Big Mac's going to be $20. First of all, using that, for instance, I'd actually be for that, because then people would stop eating that shit, and it's garbage. It should be illegal anyway. Second of all, you know, it wouldn't happen. They would get like cheaper toilet paper or something, or they would get, when the price of gasoline goes up, your Big Mac isn't more expensive. Why would it be more expensive when you're paying employees a living wage? And secondly, you know, the CEO makes over 475 times that the average worker in the case of McDonald's. So you can afford to give everybody there $15 an hour minimum.
I agree with you on that.
Right on. So let's see here. Let's see. Danny kind of echoes what I said. He said, we're going to stop eating at restaurants, ? People making no money don't eat out much either. I don't buy it. Yeah, it's the other thing. If people are getting living wages, they can spend more money. It's gonna also pay for itself that way. And Convo Couch wants to know, are you going to protect waiters' tips?
It's a service provided industry. I mean, look, again, here I use Canada as an issue because it's a country right across the lake from me. Their waiters and waitresses are actually making their country's minimum wage, and then the tip is above and beyond. So I don't see why that can't happen here. I mean, when I used to drive truck and I used to go through Canada, I stopped to eat breakfast over there. Their breakfast was comparable to ours, but yet their waiter or waitress was making their state minimum, which at the time was like $8.25 or $9.25 an hour, plus they received their tips. I don't see why that won't work here. But I'm just telling you some of the arguments that I'm hearing when I'm out campaigning and talking to these people. Because I mean, trust me, I'm stopping for breakfast while I'm campaigning out there, and I talk to the owners if I get the chance. So these are issues that I bring to them, and if it's viable for them. Of course, you know, most of them say, well, no, I couldn't handle that. And I want to say, are you saying that because that would put you out of business, or is that cutting into your profit margin? And then again, after that, you know, they don't like me at the first, but then when they hear the rest of the tax restructuring that I plan here in Michigan, you know, then they see that some of these things are offsetting what the raise of wages would be. So
like people spending more money at their establishment.
Exactly. You know,
right, so
I have plans in the tax restructuring that benefit the majority or 80% of the people here in Michigan, but it also benefits some of the businesses as well. I mean, if I lower the state income tax from 4.25% to 2.5% and lower the corporate income tax from 6%, which it's currently, down to 3% for all of our business, instead of like it is right now, where we have mom and pop businesses actually paying the full 6%, and corporations like General Motors who are paying 4.38%, and then my pet peeve, our insurance industry, which is only paying 1.75%. Yeah. So if I put that flat across the board where everybody's paying the same amount, that the benefits are going to go to the businesses and the employees.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff in the pipe, so let's move on here. I think we covered that pretty good. Now, forever voting third party, yes, Todd is an independent, So let's get into some of the anatomy of the election itself here, because one thing Forever Voting Third Party points out, what is it going to look like for you come debate time? Are you going to be able to participate in the debates? What kind of red tape might you be facing there?
Well, currently what we're doing here in Michigan, we have gathered up the minor parties who are normally never in the debates. We are actually going to start having minor and independent debates as well. We're trying to get the media and the news all involved in these so that the people of Michigan can be well informed. We have to, in order to be on the debate stage with the major two parties, we have to hit 15%, which I believe I am getting close to. Now, I've had Democratic and Republican candidates tell me they'll do whatever they have to keep me off that debate stage with them. So,
who told you that?
Well,
names.
Let's put it this way. Bill Cobbs is one of the Democrats that said they won't, and I don't think this is a personal feeling from him, but he's heard it in his circles as well, that they don't want the independents and the minor parties on the debate stage with them. So, you know, because Jennifer Curlin, who is a Green Party candidate here in Michigan, she has a very well-rounded platform, you know, and as well as I have heard I have a very well-rounded platform. But I've run across Republicans that their platform is based on just the legalization of marijuana here in Michigan. You can't run a campaign on just one platform like that. It's going to be a strong platform, granted. They will be on the ballot in November, but you can't run it just on that. So, you know, we're fighting tooth and nail for media coverage here in Michigan.
So this actually transitions into something that somebody else asked. So basically, to sum that up, you are trying to get on the debate stage, I take it, but you got to get to that 15%. So you're just going to hustle your ass off to get to that 15%.
You betcha.
All right. So somebody asked your opinion on the drug war. So what is your take on the drug war and the legalization of marijuana and so forth?
Well, first off, I think the drug war has been a waste of taxpayer dollars. Marijuana is one of the naturalist so-called drugs out there, but it has a high medicinal value. Now, I've done my research for nearly a year on the state of Colorado. So Wall Street's actually predicted if Michigan were to legalize, which it will in November, the first 2 years of sales in Michigan will be $7.2 billion. So that translates to well over $1 billion in tax dollars that, while I'm governor, will go directly to our schools and to our law enforcement. But we have to stop these seizures that the law enforcement is doing, you know, without people being guilty of a crime. They're automatically seizing their personal property, and we got to put an end to that.
So you favor the legalization of pot, I take it?
Yes.
All right. Do you favor the legalization of all drugs?
No. Heroin and cocaine and all these other drugs, they have. See, the reason I won't. I mean, you're talking more like Amsterdam and all this and that, but the facts are these other drugs like heroin, we have overdoses and deaths from it. There's never been a recorded death of an overdose of marijuana. There's never been a recorded police chase where somebody's been high on marijuana only in the state of Michigan. Generally,
well, there has been, but it was just in a video game.
Well, yeah, okay. The facts are generally when and I used to smoke it when I was younger. I'm not going to deny that. I haven't touched.
Oh, now everybody knows this is going to be used against you if you make it to that debate
Doesn't
stage.
matter to me.
Hurry up! Tell everybody you didn't exhale.
No, I'm not Bill Clinton. I inhaled and exhaled and enjoyed the results. Okay.
Boom.
The whole facts of the matter is, like I was saying, there's never been a recorded police chase with somebody high on marijuana, and the facts are because that person is generally the one driving 5 and 10 miles under the speed limit, or they're at home vegging on the couch enjoying their Doritos. So, I mean, it's a fact. We have some minor cancers that have been cured by the THC in cannabis, and I'm all for the full legalization of cannabis and hemp here in Michigan.
I mean, we actually had a really constructive kind of debate, me and the viewers did about just drug policy because, and I'm with you. Something like heroin, I mean, I've had some friends that have messed around with it. None of them are still with us. So, and I certainly see a world of difference between that and pot. But, the other side of that is, as far as legalization goes, if we were to go a direction more like Amsterdam, the type of heroin that would be in existence would not be as we know it. And there would also presumably be more help available for people. So, I mean, it's a long way off and it's definitely a process. I think we got to just start with pot and then, revisit it as time goes on. But that kind of makes me see it as less of a black and white issue than I used to. Because I used to just be, like certain things are just completely off. But then I thought, and it's like, well, people are still using it. It's still incredibly dangerous. They're still getting it via the black market. Maybe there is a better way we can outreach to these people, especially since now all we do is throw sick people in jail. That's what we do now. And I'd like to see that end. All right, so let's move on.
Okay.
We've got a lot to cover. Convo Couch wants to know, why does the police department need more funding?
Well, I'm against militarizing our police, but at the same time, we need to start more civil policing. When we used to have beat cops that would actually walk through the neighborhoods, the people of the neighborhoods actually got to know those officers. They became friends and everything like that. There was less crime rate back then. When we stopped civil policing, our crime rates went up. That's where the funding is.
Explain civil policing. What do you mean when you use that? Do you mean like civilian-led policing, like something like a Michael Woods calling for, or what do you mean by that term?
Civil policing is when the officers actually walk a beat and are being introduced to this community. In other words, they're constantly in contact with the community, and I don't mean driving up and down their streets. I mean actually walking down the sidewalks, saying hi to people when they walk up to them or when they're out in their yards. It's more of a civilized approach. Currently, I mean, nowadays, if you walk outside, even if you're not doing something wrong, you get nervous when you see a cop car. Just because we don't know what the hell they're going to do. And that's another thing about with my accountability bill that I'm currently writing, and I would like to bring into law when I get elected, is the fact that I plan on having a what do they call it? People's grand jury centralized in each county here in Michigan, which gives the people of that county the ability to hold their actual elected officials accountable, literally being able to remove them from office. And this is not the recall system. So they can remove them from office, but they can also hold law enforcement and judges accountable as well. I have currently 2 judges. I don't care if she hears her name on this or not, Lisa Gorsica, which is one of our most corrupt judges in Oakland County, Michigan. And, I want the people to have the ability to literally hold me accountable. So I'm all for this. And we have currently, we have a bunch of law enforcement shootings going on where people are unarmed and the police are just shooting them. I mean, I've seen videos across the internet where, turned my stomach. So when I started talking about this accountability bill that I want to bring, it literally includes the law enforcement agencies.
So your funding, getting just into funding then specifically, so your funding would go for what? Like, I mean, I'm assuming your funding's not going to go to give a town of 9,000 people a tank.
Exactly. I know I'm against militarizing our police.
So where would the funding go then? Would it go towards better training? Would it go towards better screening? Like give a quick summary on where exactly that would go.
It would go to better training is one of the main things right now, because we need to I mean, we have officers that are, I've actually talked to them. They're afraid to go into some neighborhoods. And I said, well, you shouldn't be a cop. So again, we need better training. We need better community gatherings where the police are involved with these. And I don't mean as protection. I mean as actually talking to the communities. You know, we need community programs that involve law enforcement with the kids of the neighborhood. You know, boys and girls clubs. We have closed schools, buildings that can be utilized as community centers to bring, so kids have places to go. I want law enforcement involved in all aspects of these communities. I want them to know, I want the community to know these are actually men and women here to serve and protect you at the same time, you know, that they are your community members as well. They're friends of your families. You know, right now, it's been years. We used to see on all our cop cars here in Michigan, it would always say to serve and protect. That is gone from our cars. They do not have these on their cars anymore.
Well, so what are your thoughts on screening then? Because, I mean, I think a lot of times, I mean, obviously there's a huge problem with screening. I mean, we've learned in the past couple of years, there are literally members of the KKK that are police officers. That shouldn't be allowed. And no. You know, I mean, if you're part of this ridiculous racist organization, you know, I mean, the First Amendment does give you the right to do that. However, if your job is to serve and protect, and you don't think all people are worth serving and protecting, you don't get to be a police officer. Similar how a blind person can't drive a cab. So there's a serious issue with screening. So what would you do about that?
Well, that's also part of the thing that I was talking about with law enforcement shootings. You got cops who are fired from one department. They go 6 or 7 counties away and get a job as a law enforcement officer again, or another state. That stuff has to stop. If you've been fired for shooting somebody, I think the screening system has failed. So, you know, this is stuff that I've been talking about. Now, I don't have an answer for everything on that, for a simple fact. I'm still in the learning process of all these issues. But at the same time, I'm willing to listen to this. But you're right. That's all part of the screening system. We need to make sure our officers are screened properly so we don't have these issues.
So you've kind of like naturally talked about this throughout the interview, but some people asked about it specifically. As an independent in the Midwest, what has been your experience participating with the 2 major parties? And I'm going to add a second part to this because this is something somebody else mentioned. Would you consider supporting the Green Party nominee? And this is my addition to that question. Why did you not consider Green entering yourself?
Why didn't I go to the Green Party and try to accept or seek their nomination?
Sure.
They're a little bit too far left for me. Now, I don't mean that as a bad way, but I just don't see I try to stay towards the center. I try to stay neutral. So I mean, the Green Party to me was never an option, but I do like Jennifer Curlin. She has a very sound and well-rounded platform. I have friends that have come from, well, let me give you an example. Marcia Squire. She is an independent running for U.S. Senate here, okay, which is Debbie Stabenow's position, who's a 18-year incumbent. She used to be Green Party. She moved away from the Green Party because the Green Party actually has some fracturedness to it as well. They're just too far left for me.
Well, give some specific policy examples, and that's fine. I mean, you're on a lefty show, but that's fine. We don't have to be 100% on everything. But what are some specific policies that you're like, that's to, you know, just to...
There's too many entitlement programs that, see, my job as governor would be to get as many people to work as I can. That's why jobs are such an important issue to me. We have a welfare system here in Michigan, and I can only speak for Michigan, that we have entire generations who have never worked. So with part of my welfare reform is I want to turn some of these social workers into job seekers for the people of Michigan.
But most people on welfare are working.
Yes. So not most here in Michigan, no. You're talking only about 1/3 of the people here in Michigan who are on welfare that are working.
Well, I can't speak for Michigan specifically, but overall, most people on welfare are working. And if that's not the case in Michigan, I would argue it's because of a lack of jobs.
Well, there's a lot of jobs here. and they're not all great paying jobs, but I would rather have people who, like you said, I would rather have people who are on welfare working something. But we also have to get child care up and running heavier here in Michigan, so that parents who have children that need to work have a place for the kids to be safe. So that
now somebody would say to you that that's an entitlement program. So how do you respond to that?
it's something that has to be done. We have a, no matter how we look at it, we have a high rate of divorce throughout the nation as well, and that's leaving single parents out there. And a lot of their excuses are they can't work because they have nowhere for their kids to child care services. You know, I would like to have businesses that can incorporate some form of child care for their employees at some point. Now, I know what that's
You're sounding like a lefty, Todd. You're sounding like a lefty, Todd.
No. This is all.
Todd, it's like I took a cup of Kool-Aid, I put it over here, and you chugged it. I didn't even tell you to. You did it yourself.
I have my Kool-Aid right here. Okay.
So, yeah, it's Fago, like a true Michigander.
Hey, I applaud you. I drank the bottle of water. The only thing left next to me was this bottle of Red Pop that I'm sorry, Red Pop Fago is my favorite. I'm sorry.
Yeah, dude,
no, I'm not sorry. This is me.
You are going to go listen to ICP as soon as we're done here, and I applaud you for it.
No,
and then you and Eminem are having lunch later.
Ron, I try to stay neutral. You know, we have too many of our politicians now, and like I said, I'm not currently a real politician.
You are running for governor, sir. You are anything but neutral.
Oh no, I am neutral. I make it a habit of paying attention to both sides. You know, I went to a Democratic forum, and I actually got kicked out of there. So before it even
started, that's being neutral wouldn't get kicked out of there.
No, I didn't even say nothing.
You're being a.
I walked in, I signed in, and I sat down in the back row, and I had a little silver-haired old lady walk up to me. She says, "Mr. Schleiger, I know who you are, and I don't think we need a spy in here." I said, "Wait a minute. I'm not a spy. I'm here to listen." "Well, I think you should leave." And people on my committee could tell you that it was just, I could have stood up and raised a cane over it, but I didn't. I just said, "That's fine. All right, I'll leave." And I've had other instances where I've gone to other forums for Republicans and Democrats alike. You know, they don't want me in there, and I don't know why. And the only reason I know they're starting to know who I am is all over an article in our Detroit Free Press that had a big old picture of me in there, and now people know who I am. So, hey, you know, I've been getting around Michigan. I'm out here. I don't believe us politicians need to interject our personal beliefs. You know, and that's the problem. We have our current politicians that think just because their beliefs are their beliefs, they think that's what everybody else in the state should adhere to, and I don't believe in that.
So, all right. So, what entitlements need to so you're saying that you would want to have more involvement getting people on welfare back to work?
That's a plus, yes.
Okay. So other than that, what other entitlements do you not favor? Because, I mean, you know, you said you're for single payer. You said you're for living wages. You're for childcare. Some people would call, I don't call those entitlements. I think that's a necessary social safety net that countries rich as ours should have. I don't call those entitlements. But when you use that type of verbiage, other people would call it that. But you're for all those things.
For most of them, yes. But one of the biggest entitlement issues that I have, and from people that I've spoke to, is when we have, I'm all for legal immigration. Okay, this is another hot button topic, but I'm for actual legal immigration. We have an issue that people of Michigan have been actually complaining about to me, how an illegal, which we have quite a few illegal immigrants here in Michigan. Some people may argue that, but the facts are the facts. They can come to Michigan and they are granted welfare funding, in other words, food stamps, cash assistance, right off the bat, where we have actual residents of Michigan that are denied because they make too much money, so to speak. And then we have some that are barely survive, barely above the poverty level in making money, but yet they're turned away from our food stamps and cash assistance. They're angry here about the illegals that are currently coming in, and they're receiving these benefits right away. Medicaid, you know, so that stuff has to stop as well.
All right. I mean, you know, and I don't have specific statistics on Michigan right in front of me, but I know that all the issues facing the state, that should be pretty, there's a lot of more pressing things. Would you agree with that?
There are.
Okay. So last question here, because we got to go. And I'm going to kind of sum up. People have brought up a couple of similar points, so I'm going to kind of condense it into just one kind of more broader question. You can take it where you want to. Then we're going to plug you, and then we're going to sign out here. What do we do about election integrity? And especially as somebody running as an independent, what do we do about election integrity?
Well, we definitely need election reform. I don't trust these machines by any means. And I think the only way that we're actually going to be able to make sure our elections are fair is that we need to go back to the paper ballot and actually have members from both, I should say all the parties current and there representing their party for each polling station, so that they can make sure the count and everything is being done fairly and accurately. I know it's more of a hands-on system, but at least there's less likelihood of being corrupted that way.
Are you for paper ballots?
Yes.
So given.
But wait a second. There's another point here too. As an independent here in Michigan, we have to work twice as hard in order to get on the ballots. I don't know how it is out there, but I had to gather 30,000 signatures just to get on the ballot. Some states that's minuscule compared to what they need, but the facts are the Democrats and Republicans, they only need 15,000 signatures. So there's a lot of things that have to be done here in Michigan, at least, to level the playing field. And that's one of the main things I want to do for our election reform here.
Would you try to expand voting access?
Yes. I think that we have to make sure that all our citizens in the state need to have the access to voting. Okay. So, we could expand the early voting ballots out there. We could make sure that there are polling sites nearby the center of each community, whereas Detroit cut a lot of their polling sites down for cost. But what I got angry about with Doug in on that was they just come out of bankruptcy, and then their city council asks for a raise shortly after they get out of bankruptcy, which I was appalled by. But yes, we need to make access to our ballots feasible and easily so that people can vote. But
all right, so this is it, and just give me a yes or a no here. Based on what happened in 2016, people in Michigan were incredibly excited about Bernie. People were not so excited about Hillary, and Michigan went red. So it seems like the people in Michigan, and of course they went for Donald Trump sold the people an idea that he was a Republican populist, which is actually an oxymoron when you think about it, given the state of the Republican Party. But he sold people that snake oil, and they bought it. And it was because Hillary offered them nothing. I mean, she was anti-living wages. She was pro-fracking. These messages did not resound well in Michigan, and as they shouldn't have. It seems like the people in Michigan are hungry for true populism, and deservedly so, and reasonably so. Are you that guy, yes or no?
That's more than a yes or no question, but yes, I am that guy for the people of Michigan.
All right. Where can people learn more about you, Todd?
Well, they can go to my website, schleigerforgovernor2018.com. For those that can see, I do have a banner up above my head. Hopefully it's reading the right direction. It's spelled SCHLEIGER, for governor. You can Google my name, Todd Schleiger. It will bring up my access to my website and my Facebook, and I think Twitter and Instagram and all that. So I'm very accessible. I don't run and hide from nobody.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Todd, thanks for joining us. You were a great guest. We really unpacked a lot. We don't agree on everything, but Todd, I hate to break it to you, buddy. You're a lot more progressive than you make it sound like you are. I hate to break it to you, but you know, I'll keep the secret if you want me to, but I think you should wear it as a badge, Todd. I think it's something you should be proud of. But guys, this has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means you guys send questions, you guys tweet articles, and that's what we talk about here on the show. Thank you so much once again for your great questions for Todd. We looked at a lot of issues. We unpacked a lot. If you want to support this show, become a patron. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. For a give what you can level, you get an exclusive podcast every week. You get another piece of content every week, free tickets to any of my shows when I'm in your town, and more for any level, a pay what you can level. Please consider it. Help keep this show on the air. Help us get better equipment. Help us expand, please. Twitter, follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone. That's where you send me the articles. RonPlacone.com. I'm announcing more and more tour dates every day. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. We do this every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we'll be back Tuesday. Until then, have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe in this crazy world of ours. Todd, thank you once again very much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend, everybody.